What's poppin', y'all? Man, we are ending the year, transitioning into the new year, because this is carrying on into the first week of January with old head and legend, absolute legend, journalist Elliot Wilson, who, from The Source, historical journalist, had huge interviews, especially with Drake, one of the most legendary Drake interviews ever, Rap Radar, all that. He went full mask off with some unadulterated levels of hate. I was about to say heat. It was heat. The content was heat. But he went on Rory and Maul's podcast, and I'm going to get straight into it. He was hating off rip. So I'm going to play this first clip for you guys.
And those people that could do great interviewers are now becoming the media.
Yes. Everybody's media. Summer Walker's media. Cameron's running like he's Stephen A. Smith. It's what we're dealing with.
Why are you saying like he's Stephen A? Why he not running around like Cameron?
Cameron to be that.
That's what people be mad at you about when you say shit like that.
Which I think he should lean into. Be the old villain.
OD, that was hate.
You know what I'm saying? That's why I think people be mad at you.
Oh, it's hate.
Cam is running around like he's Stephen A. Smith. No,
why is he a sports journalist? Because he has an opinion? Why?
But
him and Mace have proved to have a good opinion that people care about.
He got Mace having a job and really like check because the bag is
he
there.
Was a pastor.
But Elliot, you don't think that we all come from the culture of we all sit around in our neighborhoods, in front of our buildings,
but
in the
Mom, don't make you a journalist.
But I'm just saying, we all sit around in our groups with our friends and talk about
our
sports,
opinions, yes.
music. That's
absolutely.
That's all these guys are doing right now.
But that's not fair. Is Shannon Sharp a journalist?
No, but that's the
or
easier
does he have experience
bridge.
from it?
That's where the athlete becomes the media. That's the easier Charles Barkley. That's easier transition.
So why is it easier for the athlete but not the artist?
It's not easy, but I don't like it because, like, you imagine, like, this is the shit I do well, and not everybody want to do it.
So off the rip, he's just hating. And then he says Cameron walking around like Stephen A. Smith. I'm just like, damn, man, why is Cameron getting shots fired at him? Do they have some back and forth, some history that I don't know about? Is there some mystery in that history? I'm not really sure. And then they press him on this, and I really, really like the job that Rory and Maul did here. Now, granted, I don't really watch these guys. I don't have anything particularly against them. I was more understanding of Joe Budden's side when they left, in terms of Joe feels like, hey, I'm the king of this, and you guys aren't. However, I do think Joe did them scummy, if that makes sense. With that being said, they press him very, very good. And not press like they're trying to bully him, Elliot Wilson. They just really push back and disagree respectfully, so it creates really good dialogue. And they're saying, well, these guys are turning into media like Cam, Mace, all these other people. Well, what's the problem with athletes turning into media? And then he says he's got no problem with that. Oh, yeah, that's a seamless transition. You know, athletes meet. Really? Is it? Is it a transition? An athlete is playing the entire time. And then they're turning into media. Now, granted, athletes usually do have to do press conferences and this and that, but you don't see, or at least I haven't seen, Stephen A. Smith, what's the other guy's name? Skip Bayless, any of these casters who have done this their whole life. Keep in mind, Stephen A. Smith, Skip Bayless, these guys didn't have the genetics to make it into the league. So they've been doing this their whole life. They've been journalists, sports reporters, sports journalists, whatever you want to call it, their entire life while these guys were in the league, probably while these guys were in diapers, especially Skip Bayless. This guy's been doing it more than the lifetime of some of these guys. But when they come into their game, you don't see them hating. Maybe behind the scenes there's negotiations, maybe there's some frustration if they were on the same show together. But I haven't seen Stephen A. Smith hating on, man, what does Jeff Teague know about anything talking about this? And granted, these guys usually talk about the game that they played. So obviously they know it very well. But it's still a different game to be a journalist, news reporter, media, whatever the case may be. But the reason why, and this is where I think he should have just stood on it and said, yeah, man, screw them athletes too. I don't support that. So if you're supporting Shannon Sharp, who was an athlete and now is doing media, and it's media outside of just football. So he's not just analyzing football. He's analyzing basketball, which he didn't play professionally. He's doing interviews in media and culture now, just general, not just hip-hop culture, but somewhat pop culture, urban culture, whatever you want to call it, this subsect. Not all the way pop culture, because he's not really talking to Ariana Grande and stuff like that. So this is outside of his depth, outside of his realm, and we don't see people hating on him. And Elliot Wilson, this is where I think he really fell on it and looks like a complete hater, because I think he supports them because they're more institution. So he says, yeah, these guys go to Fox or they go to ESPN. That's normal. Just like I went from The Source to Rap Radar to Tidal to now Hip Hop DX. So Elliot Wilson is hating on guys like Cam and Mace, who's getting it out the mud. Let's put firm respect on Cam and Mace's name, the It Is What It Is show. So just a little bit of background, because I feel like my audience is mixed. We've got some people that are like, let's say, some in their 30s, some in their 20s, very, very few in their late teens. But Cam and Mace started the show called It Is What It Is, a sports show, where they would just give general commentary, somewhat of a podcast, but more of a show. It's kind of like, it's well produced and all of that. And they didn't start the show off the back of another big company, at least not that I saw in the beginning. They grinded it, got it out the mud. They didn't get crazy press off the rip. They built this off their own back. And the reason why I say this is because a good friend of mine, he actually put me on to a year or maybe even 2 years ago. It was a while back when these guys had maybe 1 or 2 episodes out. He said, yo, you got to cover It Is What It Is. Cam and Mace, they're killing it, man. These guys are hilarious. They're bringing this new energy into sports commentary. Nobody's talking like this. I said, really? I don't know. How does that even connect to hip-hop like that? So I didn't really talk about it, and I don't really watch it because I don't watch sports like that. Maybe I'll catch boxing fights here and there. I'm relatively consistent with MMA, or UFC, if you want to call it that, and I like ONE FC a lot. But when it comes to like basketball, football, especially football, I never watched football other than Super Bowls here and there. So it really wasn't my speed, but I've seen clips. I'm like, yeah, man, these guys are killing it. They're funny. They're entertaining. So for him to try to hate on them, I just don't understand. And then this next clip is what really upped the ante for me to start just looking around the room, because in the past, I've given respect to Elliot and I've given him the benefit of the doubt. And I said, man, I don't think he's hating here. I just think he's voicing his frustration. He's not hating on Kai. He's, maybe he just doesn't understand all the way. Now, this is pure hate. I can't hold you down, Elliot. No Diddy, pause on that. This, you got to get aired out respectfully, not on anything violent like that. But we got to hold you to the fire because you admit that this is hate. So this next clip, oh, man.
You don't like it because you feel like they're not coming to the journalists to have these conversations.
I'm real with that.
Which affects your bottom line.
The best I ever do is me with that. So then you want to be that off celebrity or what? So I can talk about that. I don't like that shit. And I'd be a hater. Yeah. It's reality.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
You don't like it because you don't think they're good at it?
I know I'm better at it.
Okay.
It's me. It's my life.
Okay.
But Elliot, what would make you better at it? Because in this day and age, it's just not about getting the information right. It's about who's more entertaining. So who are you to say I'm better at this than them when what
I'll prove it to you I'm better than you. Like I'm the best. I'm more informed.
Are you better at telling a story? Are you 100%. Better at getting accurate
They're not better. Like that shit cringeworthy. I watch that shit. It's not good.
Yo,
shit ain't popping. It ain't popping.
I don't agree.
What's the camera interview? Was like, yo, Cameron really asked the questions. Like, what are you talking about? No.
So he says he knows he's better than them. And he said their stuff sucks and it ain't popping. This is where my mind is blown. Hey, oh my God. Regardless of whether or not they are getting funding, which they for sure are now, and we don't know if there was initial seed investment into what they're doing, let's just take a look at the You're Welcome Network, right? Where Cam is hosting his own thing. He's got his own show. He's doing interviews. He's got a 50 Cent interview. He's got a Snoop Dogg interview. So these are both interviews, or he's also got a Stephen A. Smith one on his show. So this is doing numbers, right? Now, keep in mind, we don't know how inflated numbers are, this and that. I'm not accusing them of that. But let's just look at these numbers and take them at face value. 566K. This is just Cameron talking about the Dipset and Locks beef. Cameron just talking about his life, 385K. Cameron, 445K. 1.7 million with 50 Cent. Damn near $1 million on the second part with 50 Cent. 400K. Do we want to go to It Is What It Is? Because this is just a new one. Let's go to It Is What It Is, right? Which is the one that he was kind of hating on. He said they ain't popping. Man, this got me effed up. All right, you see different clips. You got 76K, 50K. Where's the actual full-length shows? Because those are usually what does the bigger numbers. Yeah, there's Come and Talk to Me. Where's It Is What It Is? Yeah, you've got season 5 finale, right? 268K. You've got Yeah, because there's different people on this network, so the views are quite sporadic. But when it's Cameron and Mace, man, you've got 365K, 208K on long-form interviews. And this is their platform that they built. Let's take a look at Hip Hop DX, which is where Elliot Wilson is on. Let's look at really Elliot and DJ Head on Drake's op list. 45K 2 weeks ago. Elliot Wilson is this legend. DJ Head is pretty much the most vocal guy that's connected to Kendrick Lamar's camp in some reason. And they're borrowing the platform of Hip Hop DX, which is 1.6 million. Now, granted, the subscribers don't really matter nowadays, but 45K compared to the hundreds of thousands that Cam and Mace are doing. How can you say that they're not popping? And when you say you're better, this is where we got to get into an interesting conversation. I know that he believes that he's better than them. But who cares what you believe if the market disagrees? Because let me just rewind you guys back a little bit. If you're old enough to remember. There was Apple and there was the iPod. And at the same time as the iPod, there was the Zune. So Zune was fire. I'm not gonna lie. It was developed by Microsoft and it was a full media player. It was objectively, in terms of hardware, software, it was better. And I think it was slightly cheaper, but I'm not entirely sure, than the iPod. Yet, it got discontinued and Apple continued. The iPod continued. The iPhone continued. And they kind of just got merged into one. So if Zune was the better product, why did they lose? Well, maybe marketing, maybe branding. But the market decided that, hey, we like iPod better. They won. You lost. Same argument that Android users consistently have with Apple, saying, oh, you don't got privacy, you don't got, hell, especially with Americans. This doesn't really exist outside of the US, maybe Canada, I don't know. But anywhere else in the world, this really does not exist. So they're saying, oh, yeah, we've got customizability on Android and Google phones, we've got better cameras, quote unquote, all of these different features, higher quality, it lasts longer, this and that. And what do people say that are in the US? Man, we don't care, y'all are broke. You got, iPhone is somewhat of a status symbol, man, especially with these chicks. Right, man, y'all got green bubbles? That's really the response. Y'all got green bubbles and you're talking, which is why it's such a U.S. thing, because largely outside of the U.S., even people with iPhones just mainly use WhatsApp to communicate or some other messaging service, whether it's Messenger, Facebook Messenger. So it's kind of odd to them that the blue bubble is what they're focused on, since they don't really use iMessage like that. So there isn't that aspect of it. But the market decides what they believe is good. And the market right now is not messing with Elliot Wilson. And this is what I'm saying. If Elliot Wilson had the juice like that, and he was popping and Cam and Mace weren't, why would he need Hip Hop DX? And Hip Hop DX has got a whole production. So does, now that show's, I think it's got to be losing money. There's no way. So then we continue on to this next clip where the hate goes to another level. I mean, it really amps up here.
Interview to Cam take away from something of, let's say we're the hip hop ilk. Even if Maul and I aren't journalists, we're still in hip hop media. You are a hip hop journalist. What interview did Cam take away from us?
They have celebrity has access to different things that I may not have. And again, I do feel like they underperform.
See, I think I have to push back. I have to push back there, because you have had 25 years of relationships with publicists, PR interviews. The three majors where Cam is a celebrity and has, relationships for him being in the game for 30 years. But you have direct relationships with the majors that the rest of the podcasting world never had. So you still do have that. I think we have to go back to the period at the end of the sentence of what the fans want. And with Cam or Young Miami, maybe they just want to be entertained. With Kai, they just want to be entertained. They don't want to be informed. They don't want to be informed.
The access goes to them above me. That's the problem I have. That's what it comes down to.
So you just heard all of that, and we got to the crux of the issue. He said, the access goes to them before me, and that's the problem that I have. Man, if that ain't the highest level, this is S-tier hate. Like, this is LeBron levels of hate. This is Kobe levels of hate. Jordan levels of hate. Who's the best guy in the league right now? I don't know, Jokic or something. Like I said, I really don't watch the game like that. So take with that. This is Ronaldo levels of hate. Not that these guys are haters, but S-tier, top of the line of their leagues and skills. Elliot got it right here. I don't think anybody can hold a candle to this, because He's even saying, man, I don't really got a problem with that. It's just that people are going to them instead of me. Ask yourself, why are they going to them instead of you? And this is where the Breakfast Club actually learned early, is they transitioned into YouTube and doing their own thing for a while. Like, they were on YouTube. People were posting their clips, and then they said, hey, hold up. Let us start doing this. Elliot Wilson transitioned into video audio quite late, and I don't even know if he has his own channel where he's doing stuff. So he's kind of in this archaic model, and he wants people to buy into him when he hasn't built those connections. Like, why isn't Elliot Wilson kicking it with an Academics? Why isn't Elliot Wilson trying to kick it and chop it up with a Joe Budden consistently? Or these new forms of media? Like, he should have been tapping in with all these. Everyone that Elliot Wilson saw was lit or popping, and he said, man, why are they getting looks that I'm not? He should have tapped him on the shoulder and said, hey, man, do you need help with anything? I've got these connections. I can help you get access to this individual. You don't think they're going to be grateful? You don't think they're going to want to assist Elliot Wilson? But instead, he wanted to stay on his own island, going from job to job. Hey, what's the next company that's willing to put some money behind me? And then now he's just in a bitter hater position, wondering why people don't want to give him an interview, especially now when you hate on these other platforms that people mess with. Like, how do you just hate on Cam and Mace? I don't get it. Like, I don't even watch their stuff. And I still like them. I like what they do. I respect what they do. I like the platform. They're transitioning. And keep in mind, it's not easy for them to do what they did. They're not just talking about hip-hop. They transitioned into sports. And perhaps they may have always been into sports and, of course, always had conversations about sports, maybe hoop for fun, this and that. But it's a bold move as a rapper to say, you know what, I'm going to put this rapping thing to the side. Mace was also doing some management, other business stuff, and he said, you know what, let's put our face out there, do this sports show. It's a risk. It's a reputational risk. Some people might clown it, call it a flop, whatever, but they took that risk, and it succeeded. And why can't you just look at it from that lens and salute them? And I'm sure they would appreciate it, instead of just saying they're whack, they suck, and they're not popping, which is damn near all a lie. But transitioning out of this straight up, unadulterated level of hate is we got a response from It Is What It Is just on Instagram. We haven't seen them light them up in video because I think they come back January 6th. So, ironic date, right? So they said in the following, the year just started and we just chilling, minding our business, sipping champagne, and here comes this Cuban Gooden Jr. looking mother effer with his salty hating, hey, yo, Elliot Wilson, you washed and nobody is checking for you. We the news source. Get used to it. Clown emoji. You a bona fide hater at its finest. Y'all swipe left because this high yellow ninja sounding like the illest ninja from Nebraska. It is what it is. Nobody's safe. We say what the F we want. Oh, we gonna show you how it's done. All gas, no brakes. Hey, Elliot Wilson, then you got some nerve to be following us. But as you can see, we don't follow you, clown. So with that being said, curve your breath stank. If Pun was alive, he'll tell you to go that way. FOH. And they throw up a middle finger emoji at him. I think Elliot Wilson following them is just because he really is. This is why I don't get it. Elliot Wilson is so tapped in to all the new people, everything that's been coming up. But it's just this old head mentality that prevents him from integrating properly and succeeding in the new landscape or excelling in the new landscape, because I'm sure he's doing fine. But he's clearly not too happy with his position right now, despite what he's put in. And he flexes 30 years. He's like, man, they say, oh, you got 20 years of connection. 30 years. Yeah, 30 years and you can't get access to people? It's because this new generation doesn't really mess with you. Or it's not that they don't mess with you. A lot of them don't even know about you. And they know about these guys and they're familiar with them and they've watched them coming up. So, of course, they're going to go with them. And something about sports shows is Cam and Mace, there's a lot of restrictions on mainstream sports shows like ESPN, Fox, all of these news stations that Cam and Mace, they came on YouTube doing their own thing independently. They don't got these restrictions, so they're uncensored. So these people that are in their 30s and 40s, maybe even 50s, that grew up on Cam and Mace, that like sports, they're like, man, we got Cam and Mace. It's like how we chop it up about sports, but we're getting the real deal, uncensored. They don't got these big corporate giants above them that are saying, you can't say this, you got to say this, you got to dress up this way. So they're really letting it all fly. So that's another angle that they won on. But of course, Elliot Wilson's not going to co-sign that, or he's not going to give them props on that, salute them on that. However, Elliot Wilson did make a good point, which is where we got to transition to some positivity here, is when he talked about Drake and Kendrick and J. Cole not being ready for an interview. So we'll roll this clip.
Artist I know is not built for that. I'm definitely going to tell them, do it live and we'll do it together. Are you
prepared to tell the truth, right? Like, is Drake prepared to have a real conversation about everything that went on? Like Kendrick, Cole, are they prepared right now to have a real conversation? Maybe not.
Okay, probably, but why would they owe that this soon? Even though I would want that.
They don't owe it. I'm saying that they're not ready for it, I don't think, right now.
But why do you say they're not ready for it?
Because it requires so much honesty of like really looking at the whole landscape of what happened. The introspection of it's like, yo, we're not there yet.
But with people like Cole and Drake, I think we're going to get that in the music on the next album, both of them.
Yeah.
So yeah, of course I'd want them to sit down and have to really answer to certain questions. I would love for Kendrick to sit with someone and someone straight up ask, do you really think Drake is like, I want those questions, of course.
Yeah.
But with them, I don't care as much because they will put that in the music.
I thought this was an excellent back and forth, and Elliot Wilson had a great point here. And they try to push back on it and say, well, why do they owe that? And he clearly said they don't owe that, but they're not ready for that. And the only person I would say that is potentially ready for that is J. Cole, and it would just be contingent on the relationship between Kendrick and Drake. In terms of, I think Cole's ready to talk about anything if he's going to do an interview. However, because he wasn't too intimately involved in the beef. However, and he exited earlier, I don't think he wants to say anything that may harm his relationship with Drake or Kendrick, stoke some flames, have either of them come at him. So I think that's what's stopping J. Cole. With Kendrick, though, Kendrick's not going to do this. Kendrick is not going to sit down. Number one, I don't know if there's any journalists or interviewers that Kendrick is willing to sit down with that are going to press him with difficult questions about this beef. Like what Rory said, I want people to ask Kendrick, does he really think Drake is a PDF? I don't know if anybody's going to ask that. And if they do, he's going to give some softball answer, try to dodge the question, and they're going to transition into something else. Because if they really press Kendrick Lamar about these things, because Kendrick Lamar made some big errors that were overlooked by him dropping such a smash and maneuvering the beef so well. They talk about, like, where's this daughter? Where'd you get this information? We still haven't seen this daughter. And why'd you just straight up lie? Or were you fooled? He's not going to answer that. It's going to make him look goofy. On top of that, like I said earlier, with the PDF thing, if he starts saying, well, this situation, and people that are keen on the situations that Drake has had with these accusations, and they dismantle each and every one, it's just going to keep Kendrick Lamar sitting there like, oh, shoot, like, what do I say next? So that's why I don't think that's going to happen. They're going to give a layup of an interview to Kendrick Lamar if he ever does one. Now, Drake, I don't know if he's willing to talk about it because there's legal things. Like some people, or academics, let's say, not say some people, said that the beef stopped because the security guard got shot at Drake's crib. That wasn't the case. Drake said he was rapping on The Heart Part 6, which came out before the shooting, if I'm not mistaken. Let me know if I'm incorrect here. So he was already said he was throwing in the towel. He was done rapping about this. So I don't like that revisionist history. I don't believe that in that revisionist history. No matter what Drake may have said, we clearly heard it on the track. You sounded like you were done. And Drake I think he would handle the interview better because Drake is coming from, I wouldn't say a victim's angle, but Drake didn't really come at Kendrick Lamar in a way that was, I don't know about false. Like, he has a lot of ways where he could pull out. For example, if people say, well, you said, he was beaten on whatever, you said maybe his kids might be Dave Freeze. He could say, man, I said might be, I didn't say that they were. This guy said I was hiding a daughter. And then Kendrick stans will probably just try to spin it like crazy and just hate anyway. But anybody that's reasonable will understand from Drake's perspective. The only thing that he can't say is Drake can't say that he didn't take it into the family realm and escalate things further. That's where he may lose some points of grace, I guess you could say. But other than that, I don't think Drake is ready for this, and he shouldn't be because he's still got to cool off. Like, Kendrick is still on a scorching hot run. He just got to wait it out. Wait for him to cool off. Wait till winter, till this whole Not Like Us thing fades, which already a lot of people are tired of the song. But wait for after the Super Bowl. Wait for after the album. Wait for after he goes on this new tour. And then hop out, do your own thing again, start dropping hits, and just keep doing what you're doing. The worst thing Drake could do right now is hop on and talk about all this, because that's just new food. That's meat. That's ingredients for Kendrick Lamar to throw in this new album, and he's just waiting on that. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. Like and subscribe and hit the notification bell if you enjoyed. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram. Thank you for watching. Peace.